Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin has continued the short-term rejection and is now dumped to the exact level I've been targeting based on the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. But we now have new price targets that we need to pay attention to, while Ethereum is still struggling at this exact area of resistance I've been warning about, getting closer towards possibly confirming this new warning signal, alongside Chainlink also moving closer towards confirming this warning signal. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But of course, on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence already confirmed and already playing out on this weekly time frame once again, which means we should not be expecting any significant bullish momentum, at least for a number of months. Once again, we can see short-term bullish moves that are short-lasted and relatively small moves compared to the larger time frames here. But overall, once again, on the larger time frames, looking at the bigger picture, we should not be expecting a massive high momentum movement towards the upside, at least not right now, and most likely for the next 1 or 2 months. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, at least for now, the momentum is still currently building in the bearish direction. So like I've already been saying over and over again here on the channel as of recent, we are technically looking more bearish than we are bullish in terms of the momentum on the 3-day time frame. Now, with that being said, we're not seeing significant bearish momentum towards the downside, so it's unlikely we'll see a major fast crash like this on the larger time frames, at least not right now. But overall, once again, slightly more bearish than bullish, which means we're still seeing a lot of weakness in the price of Bitcoin, and it's possible we could see perhaps a little bit more of a pullback at some point in the next few days or weeks. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, right now the price of Bitcoin is testing this key level of support here, sitting at around 112,000. But obviously, if you've been watching the channel over the last few weeks or so, you'll know that I've been targeting a major area of support in between around 110,000 to 112,000, and over the last 1 day, with that drop in the short term, that's exactly where we have bounced from, at least so far, from this exact area I've already been targeting for weeks now. And so once again, continue to expect a lot of support in between around 110,000 to 112,000 right there. Obviously, there's a lot of buyers interested in buying up Bitcoin in that price range, but if the price were to actually confirm candle closes below 110,000, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, in that situation, there would be significant bearish price structure, and that would actually start forming a larger bearish trend that could likely play out for a couple of months as a likely scenario if we actually break below 110,000 with confirmation and fail to get back above that level. But for now, that has not happened. For now, we're still holding this area as support. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term, just on the 4-hour time frame, we can see that once again, just a couple of days ago, the price of Bitcoin rejected from my exact level of resistance I've been warning about, sitting at around 117,000. So obviously 117,000 still acting as strong resistance. We also now have a bit of resistance at around 114.8k to almost 115,000, which was previous support right here, and right here was also previous resistance at just under 115,000. So if we see another little bounce here, expect resistance around there as well. And in the immediate short term, one of the most likely outcomes is potentially a slight little pullback like this to get closer towards the candle wick low. Usually after a volatile move like this, a quick drop off, we usually see a retest of almost the low, but not quite the low, to take out some liquidity roughly around there. And then we usually stabilize for a little bit like this, and then of course maybe see some slight little recovery. And so overall, that is my expectations in the immediate short term. That's usually what we end up seeing for the price of Bitcoin after we see a quick drop off like this. But remember, even if we see a little short-term bounce or anything like that, overall the larger momentum is still pointing a bit more in the bearish direction. We're not really seeing a lot of bullish momentum at all on the larger time frame. So when we see a short-term bullish move, that's all it is, a short-term bullish move, not a massive high momentum long-term move towards the upside, at least not right now. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that over the last 1 day, the price of Bitcoin dropped to this exact area of liquidity that I've been warning about over the last 1 to 2 days, sitting at around 111.5k, give or take. So roughly 111,500, just below these previous lows I warned about in my last video. I said, get ready, be warned. We're likely going to see a drop just below these previous lows here to take out that liquidity right here. And that is exactly what we did, and then bounced from my exact exact area of support. And so once again, in the immediate short term, I still expect that sort of price action that I just described then. But if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we have a very small amount of liquidity still sitting at roughly 110,000, just above 110,000. But with that being said, the main level of liquidity on this price chart right here is still sitting at around 119.3k. And so obviously the Bitcoin liquidation heat map is suggesting maybe at some point in maybe a few days from now or a week from now, we could ultimately come back up to try to take out that liquidity. But as always, don't ignore points of resistance. We could potentially reject from points of resistance, and points of resistance can prevent the price from potentially going higher, like that 117k level still acting as strong resistance. And so those are my expectations in the shorter term for the price of Bitcoin and the bigger picture, and of course the key levels to watch out for on the price chart. And if you want to trade any of these moves in Bitcoin or any other crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I've been taking a lot of my crypto trades over on Bitfinex, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive bonuses and actually enter this 25,000 USDT prize pool, which is only available for the people that are actually using that link below this video to make your Bitfinex account. So if you're a large trader, or if you have a decent P&L, or if you're a new user, etc., there's multiple ways where you can get a major share in this $25,000 prize pool. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex as an exchange, there's also Pinex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to Pinex below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page where you can also claim some major bonuses. For example, if you simply just make an account, takes about 1 minute to do this, make an account, complete KYC, you get a free $50 bonus from the exchange onto your Pinex account, but only if you use that link. And you also have major deposit bonuses here. For example, if you deposit just $100, you get a $100 bonus onto your account, or if you deposit $10,000, you get a $1,000 bonus onto your Pinex account. But once again, these bonuses here are only available if you actually use that link below this video to make your account. If you don't use that link, you cannot claim any of these bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, you can access Pinex and trade on Pinex without KYC. But once again, if you want to claim this free $50 bonus here, you do have to complete KYC to claim that one right there. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance on the 3-day time frame, at least for now, the price structure, the trend still looking bearish on the Bitcoin dominance, which means overall a lot of the altcoin market, not every altcoin, but a lot of the altcoin market, especially major alts like Ethereum, for example, still looking better than what Bitcoin is looking like. And so, for example, while Bitcoin is showing a lot of weakness in the shorter term, playing out these slight little dumps in the short term, a lot of altcoins, while this is happening for Bitcoin and while we're seeing a pullback in the Bitcoin dominance, a lot of altcoins like Ethereum, for example, can actually hold steady or maybe even see a slight little short-term recovery if the Bitcoin dominance is really bearish. And so that's still the case right now for the Bitcoin dominance. Still some good news for the altcoin holders, altcoin traders out there. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Ethereum price chart, what we do need to be aware of is the fact that Ethereum is still struggling at this major area of resistance here, sitting in between around 4.8k to 4.9k. And over the last 1 day, we technically just set a new all-time high, slightly breaking out or attempting a breakout above this area, but we never confirmed candle closes above this area on this chart right here, which means for now we're still struggling at this area, not yet confirming any breakouts. And so obviously we have to be aware of the risk of another possible rejection from this area. We've already seen a rejection previously from this area, and of course this previous area of resistance back down here at 3.9k to 4.1k proved as very strong resistance. We saw many significant rejections from that area. So in other words, we need to wait for the breakout to confirm before actually start targeting much higher prices and actually start flipping much more bullish again. For now, obviously, we still have that risk of another possible rejection. And like I mentioned in my last video just yesterday, if the price does not break out at some point in the next couple of days or so, so in other words, if the price just struggles a little bit or plays out a bit more of a rejection over the next 1 or 2 days, this means that Ethereum could potentially confirm this new bearish divergence here now that we have a new higher high confirmed in place in the candle closes in the price action, and we're still currently forming lower highs in the daily Ethereum RSI. And so once again, if we don't confirm that breakout very, very soon, it's likely this will confirm, which means we'll likely see either just a slight pullback or at best maybe some choppy sideways price action. But honestly, a slight little pullback could be very likely in the next few days, maybe over the next 1 week or so. if we do not break out basically in the next 1 to 2 days. And so really the next 24 to 48 hours is crucial for Ethereum in order to avoid maybe a pullback that could last for, let's just say, around a week based on these last bearish divergences here that played out for roughly around a week, give or take. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, Solana has just now confirmed another 2-day candle close above this very important area of resistance, sitting in between around 190 to 200. And so obviously this is another confirmation signal to confirm the bullish breakout above this very important area of resistance, which is obviously bullish price structure. This is ultimately the continuation of this larger bullish trend, because technically we're still forming higher lows and higher highs, which is indeed a bullish trend. But like I mentioned a couple of days ago, we do have a possible rising wedge to be aware of that is possibly forming right now, but not yet confirmed. And so right now, overall, the price structure still looking bullish, especially while we're holding above 190 to 200. And I do expect that to now act as new support if we were to see a little bit of a pullback. Once again, expect support now in between 190 to 200. And the next major price target towards the upside is roughly around $230 based on this Fibonacci level at 230. But keep in mind, of course, if, for example, Ethereum starts a pullback, that could potentially affect Solana a little bit, showing some weakness, maybe lacking bullish momentum. So maybe we continue a little bit more bullish price action, but we're not seeing a lot of momentum towards the upside. That could be a likely scenario if Ethereum continues to struggle here. But overall, if the Bitcoin dominance remains bearish, that is still okay for a lot of the altcoin market. Once again, Bitcoin showing a lot of weakness in the short term, but we could see here for Solana, it's still heading slightly towards the upside because the Bitcoin dominance is pulling back, which is good for altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, technically we still have a massive bearish divergence already confirmed and already playing out on the weekly XRP price chart. So this means that over the next 1 month or so, maybe longer, maybe a couple of months, we could likely see a larger slowdown or cool off in the price. So in other words, lacking bullish momentum, but honestly, most likely a bit more of a pullback, maybe either later this month or September, October, that sort of time frame. We could potentially see a lot of weakness in the price of XRP. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, overall, we're kind of just consolidating at the moment in the shorter term. So in the immediate short term, we're looking somewhat neutral, bouncing around in a bit of a consolidation range, but the larger price structure is still looking somewhat similar to what we saw near the beginning of the year. So keep that in mind. It's not looking too good when it comes to the larger price structure. And when it comes to key levels of support to watch out for, I'll be paying attention to around 285 to 290 as important support for the price of XRP. Below that, more support at around 274 and significant support in between 256 to 262. And as for resistance, watch out for roughly 310, which over the last couple of days, we saw some rejections from pretty much exactly $3.10 acting as resistance. And above that, we have important resistance right here, sitting in between around 335 to 340. And honestly, in the immediate short term, I'll not be surprised if the price of XRP kind of just bounces around a little bit in somewhat of a sideways price range, kind of like this. So short-term bearish price action and short-term bullish price action, just basically bouncing around in a bit of a sideways price range, is very likely over the next few days or so. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, right now Chainlink is of course still looking bullish when we're talking about the larger price structure or the larger trend, but we do have a possible bearish divergence I'll talk about in just a moment. And so when we're talking about key points of support and resistance to watch out for, first of all, we have a lot of support at roughly $24, give or take, and major support starting at roughly $21 if we first break below $24 with confirmation. And as for resistance, we have key resistance at roughly around $27, and just above that, the next major price target, if we first confirm a breakout and hold above $27, the next target would be at close to $30. And if we're taking a look at this daily Chainlink price chart, technically speaking, we've just seen a couple of small confirmation signals now to actually confirm this bearish divergence. So technically speaking, we now have a new active bearish divergence on the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame. And so this basically means that maybe over the next couple of days or so, we're likely going to be lacking bullish momentum, playing out a bit of a cool off. So that could just be maybe some choppy sideways price action, maybe even a slight little pullback at some point in the next few days could be likely now that we've just now confirmed this bearish divergence again on the daily time frame. But really pay close attention to what the Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum are doing to figure out what could be likely about to happen for a lot of the altcoin market, like Chainlink, for example. So for example, if Bitcoin shows a lot of weakness in the shorter term, while let's just say Ethereum plays out a rejection from from this resistance. In that situation, it's likely we'll see a lot more cool-offs, maybe slight little pullbacks for Chainlink and other altcoins. But let's just say if we continue a major dump in the Bitcoin dominance, which helps Ethereum push above this area of resistance and continue into basically all-time highs, in that situation, that will really help a lot of the rest of the altcoin market, like Chainlink, for example, continuing these bullish trends. But remember, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.